lovely to be here. Yes, my name is Kirsty. I'm the founder at Manyminds. And I'm going to be talking today about content marketing tips that won't break the bank or your spirit. So, I thought I would start by sharing a secret with you. I thought, why not share my deepest fears and hopes and dreams in front of such a small, intimate audience? Lovely. So, this secret is not really a secret as such. However, I have been working in SEO for 10 years now. I started in 2009-ish. And I've been running Manyminds, my agency, for 3 years. Now, for the first 2.5 years of running Manyminds, I found selling content marketing with an SEO budget, i.e. content marketing with links as one of the primary metrics, very easy. And I was selling a lot of it. I have, however, in the past 6 months or so-ish, found it harder. Now, we still have the same level of sales that we're making. However, it's harder to get these things signed off. And I'm finding the reason for that is because increasingly people are asking me, well, why can't our PR team do this, or our brand team, or our creative team? And as our tactics and our strategies merge, those questions are getting harder to answer. So I thought, maybe it's just me, maybe I have lost my mojo. This happens, it happens to the best of us. So like all important questions in life, I took it to Twitter, and I basically asked, is it just me in the industry that's finding objections a bit more, and just things are getting just a little harder and slower to get signed off and sold. And 70% of us agreed that it is getting harder. Now, 70% is not a small number. It transpires that actually the world's strongest gin is 70% made in Scotland, so God bless the Scots. Now, I also said, and this is a while ago, this is about 1.5 years ago, just out of interest, which current ranking factor is most quickly depreciating in value? 56% of us said links. Now, this is not news, this is not new, this is not inherently interesting. We all know that links currently, as it stands, are incredibly powerful. They can fundamentally change a business. Driving links to targeted page can completely change the way business operates, drive tons of revenue. That's what it's like as it stands. Will it be like that forever? Of course not. And that's fine. This is sometimes how I feel when I think about this, because I, as a person, have built a brand, a business, a reputation on my personal ability to get links to websites from other websites. But this isn't too problematic, because all we have to do is we just change. We're chameleons. We always have. When we work on the internet, we work in tech, we are working fundamentally in an ever-evolving and an ever-changing industry. So all we have to do is ensure that we continue to evolve and change with it. So all we need to do is just make sure we continue to ask ourselves what's next. I believe, and as I'm sure most of us believe in the audience also, that what's next is brands. Now, I don't necessarily just mean exclusively big brands, although that picture might indicate it. I don't just mean that. I think any small brand or startup can have a strong brand value, perhaps with a cult following. And this is where the future is going. And this is what we're already doing. We are already building brands with our content marketing efforts. We're not just getting links. We're getting coverage, reach, engagement, traffic, conversion. We're doing all of these things. We're already building brands with what we do. The issue that we face now, and we will continue to face in the future, is there are already established people, relationships, agencies, industries that build brands, creative teams, brand teams, comm teams, PR teams, all of these people that suddenly we now need to start working alongside of and not in silos. So, long term, what we absolutely have to do is diversify our objectives. We're already doing it. We need to pimp our data. We have levels of data and information and metrics that might make a traditional comms team's heart sing. That's a weird thing. We need to become PR and brand experts. We need to become qualified business consultants. We need to get better at having difficult conversations. And we need to nail creative execution. A lot of agencies are already doing this. You're going to see some absolutely gorgeous examples from Hannah at Verve shortly, some of the really lovely things that they're doing. And this isn't new. We're already talking about this. I saw Vicky Chung do a talk on how we have success beyond links 2-3 years ago. And we can do it. We absolutely can. As an industry, as SEO, we have invented the internet. Widgets, competitions, infographics, more recently interactive infographics. That's all us. We've created it all. And we can just continue to evolve and to change. We're not currently doing it quite yet, though. We still very much kind of have link revenue, and we very much kind of sit in that SEO space. Again, I took an important question to Twitter, like I always do, and I asked, who is starting to pitch or win for traditional PR RFPs. It's kind of the most similar. Currently, only about 35% of people are doing it. So we need to have a shorter-term solution. As metrics and goals change and the industry continues to evolve, what can we do at the short term to make sure we continue driving as much value as possible? Well, we need to make sure that the content marketing we're doing is as easy to execute as possible. We need to make sure it's easy to execute so we can mitigate failure, so we can make it easier to buy. So I'm going to spend the rest of the talk talking through 3 things primarily, and that is that one of the things I think we really need to learn for the future is it is ideas and not assets, not things that are absolutely everything. Then I'll talk through how volume's imperative, how we need to be doing more stuff and as much of it as quickly and efficiently as possible. And in order to do that, we need to get a streamlined process to create content cheaply and easily so that we can scale. So this is kind of the main bit, so strap in, I don't have much time. So first, step 1, ideas, not assets, are everything. I'm going to give you a few examples of what I mean by this. Who remembers this, the Greggs campaign? Raise of hands, I can see you. Cool, most people. So most people remember when Greggs offered a sit-down dinner for Valentine's Day, and this slide kind of indicates a lot about my character because I envisaged to have a slide just like full of all of the logos of the coverage that they got. And I got about 1% in, and I was like, you know what, I've got more to life than screenshotting logos. And I got really bored, but this is it, you get the idea. Wall-to-wall coverage, any kind of blog, publishing house spoke about this. Even The Guardian spoke about it actually, but in a very kind of, is this really what marketing has become? Kind of Guardian way. But they still got coverage in The Guardian, that's amazing. Now, what is mental about this? Now, I find this mental is that Greggs isn't a transactional site. They don't really necessarily care about having an online presence. They're a very traditional bricks and mortar store. So when they did this incredible campaign that was getting the kind of links and coverage that we dream of, it was all pointing towards Open Table. Fine. If there's anybody here that works at Open Table or knows somebody, I would absolutely pull a 2010 and redirect that shit into the homepage, because it is just this minefield of incredible links and incredible coverage. And Greggs were fine with that. And I guess that's okay because they're just looking for coverage. Like I said, they're not an online business, they're not hugely transactional, but it just seems, for an SEO, absolutely mind-blowing that nobody would have gone, shall we put up a page? Yes, Greggs, put up a page. Who remembers this? This little elf. This is so polarizing. And I, as an individual, do not like self-censorship. You can probably tell if I think something, I have to say it. And even I was not willing to stand in front of a massive elf teabagging a Barbie. I just couldn't do it, so I cropped it. I was like, I can't. It is very polarizing. Lots of people didn't like it. I personally loved it. I thought it was hilarious. One more example, and I'll tell you why I'm talking about these things. One more example is Kodak very recently did a campaign where simply all they did was took a video camera out on the streets of London, stopped people and said, would you like me to charge your phone? Everybody says yes, because we are power-craving monsters. And then they pretended to accidentally wipe people's data. And the reactions, it's actually quite heartbreaking. There's this one woman who's like, but my son's only 1. And it's really tragic. I know, it's so tragic. And then they go, psych, and you're like, Kodak, you're a dick. But the key thing about this is, now these are all brand stories. So I know we're not all working on big brands where you have lots of clout. That's irrelevant, and I'll give some more examples of that later. The point that I'm really, really trying to get across with these examples is that all of these did not rely on execution, which as SEOs we tend to be very good at, and that's where we tend to sit. We generally tend to create a big thing with a big data set because that's awesome and we know that's what works. However, we can also really start thinking about brand stories and brand messaging. In 2016, I stood at the first SearchLeeds and I said, do not create content about a brand. It's seen as commercial and you won't get links. Well, now I have changed my mind. That is my prerogative. And I've changed my mind for a few reasons. First, we can't be afraid to know a brand and lead with it. But one of the things I'm really, really starting to feel is brand stories, brand messaging, brand-led content. Often SEOs aren't trusted with that. Often we're not trusted to take a brand message and run with it. Why not? I think as the industry changes and it all evolves, we need to start really fighting to be able to tell brand stories and tell brand messages for our businesses and our clients. We're not just SEOs doing some naughty, dirty, weird link building thing. We need to start being able to be trusted to tell brand stories like brand and PR teams normally do. I think it's imperative. That's why I'm talking about that now, because it's what's going to be happening more and more. So very briefly, if you work with big brands, probably you already have this. If you don't, delightful, you get to do it yourself. There's 4 key things that I think you need when thinking about brands from a content marketing perspective. First, you need to understand your core objective, obviously. Then you need to understand your value proposition. What is it that's going to make you hit that objective? And thirdly, why are you unique? Why will people choose you over your competitors? And based on that, you'll get a consistent message. So if we think about Greg's, on their website, they share all of this stuff. So their core objective is to be the go-to place for convenience food. Their value proposition is that they're cheap, and their USP is that they have lots of different stores for ease. So their consistent message and their brand message is that they're cheap and easy, no frills. So they've got that so firmly ingrained within their brand and their messaging that the moment they momentarily just switch that and flip it, people go batshit because it's what people don't expect. They're doing the same kind of thing at the moment. Has anybody seen Gregory and Gregory? It's awesome, isn't it? It's so good. For those who haven't, they rebranded to Gregory and Gregory and took it to this like farmer's market. It's amazing. And basically, they've not had to invest a lot of time, effort, and money in creating a thing because they have a consistent message, and that consistent message will carry them through for all of the content that they create. And I think as SEOs, that's not hugely our position, but I think, why not? We can do it. Let's start doing it. I made a template. If you're interested, do email me. I was going to share it, but it was actually my friend that made it, and she's currently on honeymoon in the Galapagos, so I thought it might have been a dick move to share it on her behalf. Do email me. So you may be thinking at this stage now, well, that's all well and good for big brands like Greg's or Poundland. They can do this kind of stuff. Well, what if your brand is just a bit shit? Now, I knew I was doing this talk, and at this stage I thought, well, maybe I could give some examples of an absolutely appalling brand. But I didn't want to because I thought, I don't want to shame anyone, so I'm not going to give any examples of a terrible brand. I will not do it. I'm not going to fundamentally call anybody out for destroying their customers' lives. We'll just move on. I'm a TSB customer, can you tell? We'll just move on, and I'll talk about what to do if perhaps you don't necessarily have a brand with lots of hook. It doesn't matter. But what is important is volume. Let me give you another example. So another show of hands. You've just had your coffee. It's limbered. Who's ever had a massive campaign flop, i.e. done something and it just failed, dropped dead in the water, everyone's very sad? Okay, about 40%. Christ, I thought it would be more than that. Right, so I have, hugely, massively. Here is an example. We had a client, and they were an interior design client. They were an e-commerce store, and that's kind of what they were. They didn't have a kind of strong brand message behind them. They were e-commerce. And we did what I think to this day is perhaps my personal favorite campaign we've ever done, just in terms of idea and execution. We basically I got my team, I stood and watched because I'm great like that. I got my team to carry an armchair around London, and we put it down in all of these landmarks, and we just interviewed a huge range of diverse people. And we ended up with this really stunning content that just championed diversity and inclusivity, and Brexit's awful, and it was very nice. And then what happened, the day we launched it on the Monday morning, we were in conversations with the Metro and the Londonist. All was looking well. That evening, the London terror attacks happened. So in one swoop, we obviously stepped back from respect and shock and stopped talking about London because something tragic had happened. Now, because of that, something completely outside of our control, our entire campaign flopped. We never really got it back after that point. I managed the client badly. I was like, it'll be amazing again in a few weeks, but it never was. The sentiment had changed. We'd kind of lost it. That feeling had gone and been replaced with something different. What happened here was we had spent a long time creating this. I had taken the client's expectations and shot them through the fucking roof. I did that because I was excited about it. And then suddenly we had nothing. Now that's a problem. That's a real problem. And as the industry continues to evolve, these value questions will continue to get harder, and we will get more of them. So as I see it, the primary way to mitigate this is stop putting all of our eggs into one campaign basket. I bet you all thought you'd moved on from word art, but you have not. No, that was, yes. So what I recommend is big, sexy content campaigns, glorious, lovely, still work. We're ironically doing more of them than we ever have, but also we need to be mitigating the risk of these big campaigns, both in terms of time, effort, budget, and resource with some smaller stuff. Now, what that does is creates a lot more room for error, a lot more room for change. When I was thinking about this talk, I ultimately kind of realized I've kind of set my business up to fail, but perhaps that says more about me than anything else. I don't want to turn this into like a group therapy session, but we do want to be making room for error, and I think this is the easiest way to do it. So, in order to do it, we need to be creating content very cheaply. They say that, yes, so actually, another raise of hands. So who in here works for a business? Everybody, yes. We all work for a business. So congratulations, free links. Businesses all have founders, entrepreneurs, boards, CEOs, and they are all fairly inherently interesting and people want to link to it. Here is what my PR guru, lovely lady Pam, did for me. We were trying to get links for Manyminds, and she went away and submitted entrepreneur interviews from me. Now, I run a relatively small business for a relatively short amount of time. I, comparatively to the rest of the startup landscape, have had nothing particularly interesting or huge happen to me. There's been no big investment wins. I haven't sold anything. Despite of that, we've got some coverage in NatWest, in national media, and lots of startup press, because people are interested in these kind of stories. Also, product launches are great for e-commerce sites. Every time you launch new products, there it is, some immediate kind of link collateral, investment wins, new hires, new clients. All of these things you should be creating stories from and getting links for. Ultimately, the kind of crux of this is I'm going to run through some tools and tips and tactics now on how we can start creating really cool, fun content marketing without having to invest a lot in terms of budget and time, either to supplement what you're already doing, or if you don't have huge budget, so you can start doing that kind of stuff. So this is an example from one of our clients. I picked these guys because they're a small brand. They don't have huge amounts of clout or brand recognition. And they are also B2B IT solutions, so dry, very dry. So I thought it'd be quite difficult to do this. And what we did is we made this. It's called, it's so obvious and kind of a bit naff. We basically took the most stunning images we could find on the internet and collated them into this kind of interactive content of extreme data centers. It turns out there's quite a few. There's one in a basement in a church in Barcelona. And so we made this for them, and it performed incredibly well, particularly for that kind of brand. It historically never really had any kind of exposure or got links or coverage. Computer Weekly, Mashable, Tech Radar, physicsworld.com is just this kind of academic site. Never normally links out. It has a DA, I think off the top of my head, of 86. I had a lovely little SEO orgasm when we first got that. I was like, that's a dream. I was so happy. Now, the key thing about this is not necessarily what we did or the results. What is interesting is how we did it. Ultimately, this cost $249 less, required absolutely no developer time, and took about 1 day to distribute. And then it built links for itself over time. The way that we did that is through this. This is called Slides. It's by a company called Design Modo. Please go away and play with it. It requires a very basic knowledge of HTML, perhaps, but really not that much. And what it allows you to do is create these stunning, visual, interactive pieces of content easily, yourself, without lots of time, without lots of effort. So you can kind of go away and do that, and we can all start creating very excellent things. Another example is quizzes. I found these guys are called Outgrow. So again, go look at Outgrow. That is $25 a month for the freelancer license. And what this is a completely user-friendly way to make quizzes that you can embed into your site. And they're gorgeous. They're really, really nice. They look really legit. They work really well. So this is a really nice way that you can go and start getting links and creating really cool content without huge amounts of effort, time, and energy. This one is perhaps my favorite example just because it's a bit dirty, but it isn't. It just feels kind of growth hacky. Have you ever seen those things where you can make fake text messages or fake tweets or fake Instagram profiles? So these are just free and abundant on the internet, but actually you can do some really nice, fun little bits of small reactive content with them. So we, for example, did a piece where we took popular films and kind of reimagined them for millennials, just your everyday internet nonsense. And we used this, and it did quite well. It got us a few links on some really, really nice kind of film sites, some medium-sized sites and blogs. Excellent. The key thing here is it really took us very little effort. We just used these little tools. Didn't take very long at all. One of my favorite tips to give you today on how we can start creating more content with less effort is get other people to do it for you. I mean, my whole business, I just exist to get other people to do things for me. I just delegate. I'm excellent at it. Same client, actually, the interior design company. When we first got them as a client, they were really, really looking to promote their sheets and bedding section of the site. So I came up with a totally absurd idea of a structurally sound pillow fort. So I went away, and I didn't, somebody on my team went away and spoke to many, many architects to try and ask them if they would draw us up some blueprints for a structurally sound pillow fort. 99% of them said, "You're batshit, we're serious professionals, go away." However, one small company with brothers were like, "Cool, yeah." And they did it. If you're interested, this is what it looks like. Traditional Mott and Bailey style. You need 4 corners with a chair or something and then layer the pillows up. That would be the most historically accurate, structurally sound pillow fort. Now, this itself, again, performed very well. We got kind of coverage and links on those kind of sites that you really want to be showing to your clients, and it makes everybody very happy. Again, it really didn't take as much, and the key reason that this didn't take as much is because we didn't make the asset. We didn't build it. The architects did. The blueprints, the main thing that we used for our outreach, we spent no time on. The only really time that we spent was one day I hired a small studio space, set up a time-lapse camera, and me and a friend made it. I mean, and that isn't work. Like, that's not work. And then it's just great, because in a lot of the coverage we got a link to the architects we partnered with, they're happy, and then also we got a link to our client. This can work incredibly well, but the risk here is you can lose the link for yourself. So you have to make sure both equally own the story. So we equally owned in that story because our client provided all of the pillows and the bedding, architect said what to do with it. So that's a really, really nice way to try and find businesses that aren't necessarily direct competitors, but you can partner with, so you can start creating a bit more content on the fly. This is something I've seen recently. I haven't had a chance to use it yet because the client didn't sign off my idea, classic. This is called Timeline, and this is what it says on the tin. It makes really, really lovely visual interactive timelines. Completely free, completely open source, desperately easy to use. All you need is an Excel file with a list of timelines. Time Magazine's using it, Engadget's using it. I saw a really beautiful example of a company that had used it for International Women's Day, and they basically listed out all of a timeline of women in computing, and it was just a list, so you can really kind of do quite a lot of stuff with this. And again, it's available, it's ready to use, you can go away and play with it tomorrow. So, in summary, our industry is changing, but that's fine. It's no big deal. We're chameleons. We just need to be aware of it. I think we do need to start having the conversation that it is changing, because once we start having that conversation, we can all come together and use our glorious united power to start having those brand conversations, to start being able to get creative briefs and contracts, because that's what we're already doing and we deserve it. And that way we can, as SEO, transcend kind of what we've always done and become creatives, become brand experts, because that is exactly what we are. We just need to change the conversation, and we can't do it alone, so we need to start doing it together. And in order in the short term, whilst we're doing that and we're trying to empower ourselves, we need to start making sure that we're mitigating any risk of content we are creating to make sure we add as much value in the short term as possible. And that is by diversifying what we're doing. And then we'll all be like this very cool chap, and we'll all be very happy and successful. Thank you so much.